so we're talking about the St. Louis hockey scene as far as, I mean, really men's hockey and women's hockey, but definitely women's hockey today because there's enough to go around.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, we did kind of do this at a time before the Blues won the Cup and before those facilities were built. But now we're in an era where the Blues have won the Cup, and right after the Blues won that Cup, two new facilities, at least two that I know of, the one the Centene in Maryland Heights and the Maryville University Center in Chesterfield Valley. Those have been erected and completed since, by the time this new season started. So that worked out really well. So it's like,
I didn't realize the one out.
The one for Maryland University got wrapped up. I knew they broke ground on it, but
yeah, no, I stopped by there a couple times when it was kind of completed, just to check, see what it looks like. But I haven't really been there to see any games or anything like that, or playing any beer leagues. So, but it's a nice little facility. I don't know if it's as cool as the Hardee's Iceplex that we had before. Like, I know I haven't been there in so long, so it's hard to remember what that looks like. But they had to tear that down in favor of a Topgolf range, unfortunately. But I'm glad that there is another facility there. That's better than nothing. And then, of course, you got the Centene Community Ice Center in Maryland Heights. So, I mean, you get those facilities built, and then the perfect timing of the Blues winning the Stanley Cup happens, and everybody that always grows the game in some way. Like, guys and girls watching the Blues, like their home team win the Cup, that's always going to be a catalyst. So, but yeah, so that all worked out really well. But I mean, as far as like what it does for, let's look at the girls game for a second. So like when I was at the NWHL All-Star game in Nashville in 2019, I actually hung out with some coaches from the the St. Louis Lady Cyclones. You probably heard about them. Like,
oh yeah,
we were talking about the facility back then before it was completed, and they said, oh yeah, we don't have a specific place to practice. We're just like bouncing around. Like, technically they were supposed to practice at the Mills like the Blues did, but really they just like bounced around everywhere, and it was kind of just like, I guess, play it by ear. And sometimes, once in a while, I would see on Instagram, like, they would post something and they'd say like, oh yeah, we don't have a place to practice, so we're practicing at this firehouse or something. But now with the new facility, that's pretty much their permanent home. Like, they're just always going to practice there now. And and they even have their logo on the ice. And when the coaches told me about this logo, like, I thought they meant like the big center ice logo, but it's like actually just a logo kind of in the corner of the center ice logo, which is fine too. That's on the Plager rink. And so that was all exciting stuff to look forward to, especially when I was there in Nashville. I was at their practice rink, and I'm like, oh man, I'm thinking we're gonna get a new practice rink in St. Louis, because like the Blues practice at the facility too, and who else plays there? Like the AAA Blues and Lindenwood, of course, men's and women's.
Yep.
And out there, and it's actually been really cool to watch everything come up, and more groups start using the facility and actually working together.
Right. And also, speaking of Lindenwood, they're getting club hockey back apparently too. Like the Lindenwood.
Really?
The Lindenwood Belleville team, they had a team called the Lynx, and they had a club hockey team out there. But I saw on social media that they were relocating to the regular Lindenwood. I guess maybe just because like it's playing at that new Maryland Heights facility, I guess, is just too hard to pass up, and I'm guessing that's one of the main reasons. And of course, you've heard about the ACHA as well as ACHA All Divisions hockey tournament coming up in March 2022. It's going to take place at the Centene, so maybe they're thinking home ice advantage with that. I mean. Oh yeah,
well, and plus, having went to Lindenwood, I saw the place they used to play in. Decent enough hockey rink, but really needed a big upgrade to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's cool things about the Wentzville Ice Arena. Like, it was really small. It's like intimate, and all that stuff. I was at a Lindenwood versus Minnesota Gophers game like in November, I think it was 2017, and like I had to go to the bathroom in between periods, and then when I came out, I saw like Grace Zumwinkle and one of the assistant coaches. They're having like a pretty hard conversation about something. Like it was like intense conversation. And Lindenwood, that was the year where, like Minnesota and Wisconsin, they were kind of gutted because their Olympians were centralized.
Yeah.
Their Olympic players were centralized. So it's like Lindenwood could kind of hang with those teams that year. So, and I think that game in particular went to overtime. So, like, and Lindenwood's never really been to OT, like,
right.
Never even dreamed of doing that against the Gophers. So yeah, I don't know. But I happened to catch this, like, it's just in the hallway, everybody walks down and they were just having an intense conversation about something, whatever play, what happened on that one play, I don't know. But yeah, so kind of the intimate feeling was cool. But yeah, it's definitely really cool to have this new state-of-the-art facility, which has 4 rinks, one of them being an outdoor rink, which is right now it's supposed to be a concert venue, but that's obviously
that's a bit rough right now.
Yeah, it's on hold, but that's cool that they're doing that. Like, I don't know, it's right next to Riverport, the Hollywood Casino Amphitheater right now. So I don't know, like, I guess the more the merrier, I guess, with concert venues. I don't know.
I mean, depending on the size of it, I mean, it could host groups that aren't just big enough to fill the Hollywood Amphitheater.
Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of surprised to see, like, Kesha she's supposed to be like the opening, like she was supposed to be the grand opening act, and so I guess they want to get somebody big for that. But I feel like Kesha would be one who could actually perform at Riverport. But I guess whoever they can land. I mean, I was interested in seeing like Steve Miller Band and Lindsey Sterling there too. Like, I don't know.
Oh my God, I'd love to see Lindsey Sterling there.
She was supposed to be playing there. I think it was supposed to be either this month or next month. But I guess
that got nixed real hard. Jeez.
Yeah. So hopefully that happens. But yeah, so 4 rinks. You got it's the USA rink is where Lindenwood and all them play, and then there's the NHL rink, and I think that's where the Blues actually practice. Like they have training camp at the USA rink sometimes, but then you got the Plager rink, and then you got the outdoor rink, which now that the stands have been completed for the outdoor rink, I guess they'll actually have the stands and the penalty boxes. They'll actually have actual games out there too when during the right time of the year. But
that'd be actually really cool to see, especially, some semi-pro groups that would only get to play, indoors. That'd be actually really fun to see them get to play outside.
Right. Yeah. And again, I did some stick and pucks and like pick up and play hockeys there a couple times in this past winter. And like, it was like a really good feeling to skate on that outdoor rink. Like, you know how like the NHL players, when they talk about the Winter Classic, they'll be like, oh yeah, it's just like being a kid again. And I guess whatever that feeling was, I must have had that same feeling because I haven't skated outside on a pond since I was probably before I was even 10 years old, so it's like,
oh yeah,
it was a good feeling to skate on that, like when you step on out there the first time. And also like the sun was going down, so like the lights were off and you were just kind of playing in like the dusk or whatever, like the sunset.
You had all the right ambiance to have that happen.
Yeah, so it was a good feeling for sure. But yeah, just seeing how the game will grow like that. And also the Chesterfield Valley's Maryville Center, like you probably heard about how they added a Chesterfield Lady Falcons program. Like that kind of blew my mind because I remember there had always been a Chesterfield Falcons, but I didn't think about there not being women, like a girls team. So that's another big factor in growing that game. Just Stanley Cup, buildings finished, and then new programs. It's cool to see it all evolve like that.
And exploding all over the place. One of the interesting things that I really like about the St. Louis hockey scene is, we're talking about, pro and semi-pro, especially people sticking around or moving here after their careers are over.
Right.
I can think of maybe a handful of cities that have more, former players, former coaches,
right,
that are living there, and then all those people help foster this new, up and coming hockey scene and making things more available and happen even more. I just think the Blues winning the Cup was a very fortuitous event. It just coincided perfectly with that.
Right, definitely. Yeah, and even guys that were on the team for like a year or something, like even Wayne Gretzky has a house here. Like I think his wife's from St. Louis too, but
Wayne Gretzky owns
like over 100 acres, I think, out in like Chesterfield Valley or something like that. It's a huge little ranch area.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. But yeah, I mean, that was another organization though, the St. Louis Blues alumni. They use it. I think they played some kind of alumni game before that All-Star weekend. It was like on the Thursday, I think, and like a whole bunch of alumni were there.
Yeah, it was right before the official opening of the rink, wasn't it?
There might have been something going on then too, but there was also like an alumni game that happened before the All-Star weekend, and a lot of big names will come in for All-Star weekend, like including Gretzky, who didn't play in that game, but a lot of people did play in that game, or at least were involved in it somehow. And even John Hamm was there in that little, in the little Maryland Heights facility. John Hamm, I saw him hanging out with Chris Pronger and stuff in the VIP area. So yeah, man. But yeah, I'm liking where things are going with that. Let me check my notes. And speaking of the All-Star game, we had the Elite Women's 3-on-3 happen during the skills competition, and we have the San Jose All-Star game to thank for that, because with Kendall Coyne's thing where she skated a laps, but yeah, it was cool that this Elite 3-on-3 happened for us the first time, and I would imagine it would happen next year too, but they might cancel the All-Star game because of all the things going on, and they might push back that season. But it was fun to see. It was fun to kind of watch that event.
I could see them maybe pushing the event date back, but I don't see them canceling it straight out. Like St. Louis did a lot of different stuff for it, and it really showed that it could still work.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that, the NHL is going to try to hold on to it as much as they can.
Yeah, I hope they still hold on to it. I mean, it seems like the news changes every day at this point, but, hopefully they still hold on to it, and hopefully they'll keep doing the women's 3-on-3 or whatever they can come up with,
Oh, yeah. So speaking of the NHL, what do you think about them going to a 24-team tournament?
I mean, I don't really know. I'm kind of getting to the point where it's like we keep getting deeper into the summer. Like, it's like we just do something. I mean, I hope it's not too insane, but like a 24 tournament doesn't sound like the most insane thing that could happen.
I know there's been a push by several different teams and players that have wanted to expand the playoffs. Add more teams to it. So I think they could maybe use this as a rallying cry to do that. Yeah. I don't know how I really feel about that. I just want hockey to come back at this point.
Yeah, I mean, especially like the NWHL, they canceled their Isabel Cup final, and you think, well, that's only one more game. Like, how could they cancel that? I mean, there could be things going into that I don't know about. Like, players could be moving on to doing other things, in their personal lives by then. Like, because you would think they could do that a couple weeks before the preseason, even. Like, but there could be some kind of some loose ends with that or something. I don't know.
I mean, if I'm thinking about it from like an athlete's perspective, there has to be a conditioning aspect to it.
Yeah, and that too.
Yeah.
And they would have to get conditioned, I guess, for just that one game left, whereas the NHL would have a lot of games that they. Yeah. So I don't know, but yeah, it's too bad. I mean, all those tournaments got canceled. The Frozen Four was going to have St. Louis. It could have potentially had St. Louis and Jinsey Dunn and Lauren McInnes in it. I was hoping for that to be the final, Northeastern versus Ohio State, but
that would have been a really good one.
Yeah, and Lauren McInnes, she's been starting to score for Northeastern and scoring big goals like the Beanpot OT winner and all that stuff. Like, she's starting to make a name for herself in that way too. It's just like Jinsey Dunn, of course, she's definitely made a name for herself a lot of times, and she still does really good. She doesn't seem to get invited to USA Women's World Championships anymore, but hopefully that changes. I don't know. We'll see what happens with that.
Indeed. It's always a challenge, I guess.
Always a challenge indeed. So as far as but I guess real quick we can talk about we can talk about that ACHA club hockey tournament real quick in 2022. It's supposed to happen in March 2022, and it has it's going to be men's and women's. So it's like there's like 3 divisions of men's teams and then 2 divisions of women's teams. And I don't really think about the club hockey too much. I know it exists, but I don't think about it like all that much. I mean, I wonder what kind of what could a tournament like that do for the town, and like especially for the future of tournaments that could be held potentially at the Maryland Heights facility.
Definitely. I mean, I think it could actually be a major flagship event for them. And then, let's say even if they get moderate success and a moderate turnout from, people and other fans coming in to watch it, even just having that much of a push and having it be able to go on and grow from there. My whole thought on this is if it's, successful, viewership wise and attendance wise, get more clubs in, get more people going. More attention is always good in something like this.
Right. And like, I just, you've heard me talk about Women's Worlds how many times now? I mean, it's just like, I love going to tournaments, and I love being there and hanging out with people. And like the idea of a tournament like that coming to St. Louis, where you could just, it's 10 minutes away from where I live. I could just drive up there and just hang out with people and have a good time while the tournament's going on. Like the idea of tournaments is just fun. Like it's just hanging out with people. It's a big party. Like even like watching like the old Dragon Ball TV show where where they're at martial arts tournaments. Like it's fun to watch. So I don't know. It's just,
come on. Some of the most exciting parts of stories are tournament arcs. So
right. Yeah. I'm telling you. Didn't My Hero Academia have something? Yeah,
Oh yeah.
That was entertaining. I remember, it's coming back to me now. But yeah, I mean, so, and especially like, with, I have to think that's a big factor. And like I said before, LU women's club hockey, like moving from Belleville back to the regular Lindenwood. So,
yeah, that's actually a really big move for them, and I'm happy to see them come back.
Yeah, I'm just we'll see what it's like, because like I didn't get to make as many NCAA Lindenwood women's games as I wanted to. So like hopefully, like if I can't make this one this weekend, then maybe the next weekend I'll make the club hockey game or something. Like I don't know.
For sure, yeah.
But that's kind of the whole mindset there. It's like there's more, you got more hockey and more hockey in that centralized area too, where the hockey community is coming together. So yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. But otherwise, yeah, hopefully Lindenwood men's and women's will be rocking that tournaments. And hopefully it'll lead to tournaments like the World. St. Louis has tried to get the World Juniors before, so hopefully, maybe that'll help in the future for that, or if even a Women's World, right? Because those usually, most of the time, those are in North America, unlike the Men's Worlds, which I can see why the Men's Worlds are in other countries, because then those Europeans can get the European fans can see NHL players. That's their opportunity. So
yeah.
But yeah, we will see what kind of tournaments the Centene Community Ice Center brings in, and also I think they're going to use the Maryville University Ice Center as well for
overflow games. And
that's the word I'm looking for. Overflow games, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean with these new facilities set up, I could see a whole lot of even amateur level and independent club tournaments use St. Louis, just because we not only have the facilities to house them now, we have the infrastructure to support it. I mean, we've got enough. Right. We've got enough premier hotels to house people and all that. And plus, as long as we're talking about like North American club hockey, we're pretty much central. I think the only other place that is as central as we are that has enough facilities that could house people is maybe Chicago, but that's if they don't already have something going on.
Yeah, and Chicago's kind of like that kind of bigger city where would be probably a lot of things going on. So, because like this kind of reminds me, like a real quick side note, like the PWHPA, they listed their 5 like they had like 8 different regions, like Boston, Buffalo, New England, Buffalo, Calgary, and they kind of shrunk them down to 5 regions. And Boston is the New England area isn't one of them, but it's just like New Hampshire is the region. And that kind of makes me think there's either a lot of stuff going on in Boston, the Boston area, or it's just too expensive there. And New Hampshire is kind of like, it's not too far away. It's like an hour and 15 minutes, but
right.
That's another kind of example of that. If they want to go somewhere where it's not too overcrowded, I guess. I mean, otherwise Boston's like the obvious hockey hotbed, like in the Northeast. I mean,
yeah,
as far as I can think of. So yeah, and St. Louis. So yeah, St. Louis would be good for that. And of course, their NHL is thinking of using them as a hub city. And if they're going to do a 2014 playoffs, I mean, I guess that would make even more sense. So.
Oh yeah. Well, speaking of NHL designated hub cities and whatnot, did you hear they're about to revoke Toronto's?
Revoke Toronto's?
Yeah, hub city status for the NHL.
Does it have to do with coronavirus, or is it just?
I think this was something that was, I remember reading about it briefly, but it didn't mention anything about coronavirus, and it was something that they had in the making since they had more teams coming up in the South than they did in the North.
Huh, interesting. Yeah, like Southern teams, I mean, Nashville is pretty popular right now. And Carolina, they'd be good. I think they're still working on their new practice facility, though. That's kind of akin to ours. So
yeah.
It's going to be like a multi-sport facility, I think, but it's still going to be kind of like the Hurricanes will practice there and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, that was years ago that the NHL expanded to those southern teams. So I guess maybe it'll starting to pay off more and more as it goes.
Yeah, especially with talks about Texas getting another team. So I mean.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're either thinking of either dropping a new team in Houston or moving either the Coyotes or I forget the other team that they had mentioned that they might try to move. But I mean, with the Coyotes finally getting good, I could see Arizona getting rather upset with that.
Yeah, no, it's just like these teams have been around for so long. It's like even the women's hockey scene is doing well. Like they had a PWHPA event there, and players like McKenna Newkirk come out of there. It's just like the longer a team is in there, it's like the more disappointed people will be. It's like whereas Atlanta, they only lasted like 10 years or so, or not even that. Like
10 years, you make the playoffs once, try to set up a super team and bring in all these different other players and get nearly swept out of it.
That's right, yeah, including Keith Tkachuk, right? Yeah, it's just.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta had two teams as well, but yeah, I think like if the fan base gets built like enough and the team does well enough, then it's going to be more disappointing to move them out. But Florida, they're still not doing good, so I don't know what's going to happen with them. But
the Panthers aren't going anywhere. They just hired Coach Q.
They hired Coach Q.
They signed Big Bob to a stupid big contract.
Yeah. And of course, people don't have to pay taxes there. And if they move to Quebec, it's going to be like, oh no.
Oh yeah.
That's like they don't have to pay taxes the same. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the tax structure aside, I mean, you're talking about playing in Florida, where you have nice weather 80% of the time, and it's storming the other 20%. Right. Meanwhile, okay, we're going to move you to Quebec.
Right, yeah.
I lived in Florida for the last 5 years. I don't want snow.
yeah, pretty much. And I think that is where the All-Star game was supposed to be next year in Florida. So I think it was. So we'll see what happens with that. Like Miami. We'll see what happens with that. But that'd be a good All-Star game location.
Oh yeah. Miami's actually a great location for almost anything. Just the amount of venues they have to support things is just crazy to me.
Right. I'm telling you. But we'll see how it all unfolds. Real quick though, I guess we'll mention I kind of have a list of the players here. The St. Louis-based women's hockey not based, but players that came out of St. Louis.
Right.
So let's see. Obviously, you have the Dunn family, and that's a lot of brothers and sisters. You got Jinsey Dunn, of course, is the one that pops out, and then Jessica Dunn, her older sister, played for Ohio State as well. And then the next sister, Josie Dunn, will be playing with Minnesota starting next year, and like another famous name, McKenna Webster. She'll be playing for the Wisconsin Badgers next year. So it's like, wow, those two will be part of the border rivalry, and that's pretty cool with me. And especially those two teams usually make it to the Frozen Four. And McKenna Webster, she had a great. I think she's been on the U18 USA team for the last 3 years, but this year she just seemed like she was the most standout player, and like I was pretty certain that she was going to have something to do with the overtime winner when that gold medal game against Canada. But the thing is, I feel like her line mates were kind of like kind of letting her down on that one. Like I think she, I don't know. I mean, because she was like the fastest player clearly. Like there was one point where she made a stretch pass and like the player got the puck, but she was over the blue line or stuff like that. But USA ended up scoring on a 2-on-0, so that worked out anyway. It was on a different line, but yeah.
Hey, as long as we got the goal, it doesn't matter.
Right, yeah. Yeah. And then who else we got here? So, of course, I mentioned Lauren McInnes, and then and Katie Matheny also played for Ohio State with Jinsey Dunn and Jessica. So Ohio State has a lot of St. Louis players there. So I've become kind of a fan of them because of that. But then who else do I got listed here? Nicole Arnold plays in the NWHL. She actually played with the SLU men's team.
Okay.
So yeah, I think they were club hockey or something like that. I'm not sure. And then I kind of have some really rando players listed. Like Logan Hicks plays for. I think she plays for Syracuse. Yeah, I was at a game where she was at. She's from Arizona, but it said on like her stats that she played with the AAA Blues at one point. So I guess that you can kind of count that if you want to. And then
why not?
Of course, as far as players that have just played in St. Louis, you obviously have all the Lindenwood players, Nicole Hensley being the gold medalist.
Yep.
And then a couple Lindenwood players, like one of them, Kendra Broad, played for the Connecticut Whale, the NWHL last year, and then Nicole Guagliardo got drafted by the Whale. She played for Lindenwood 1 year. She played for Mercyhurst and Adrian her other college years. But and then I even think sometimes there's certain players that'll be assistant coaches for Lindenwood once in a while, like Melanie Jew. She went on to play for the Red Star Kunlun, the team in the CWHL, the China team. And I think if things work out well, she could possibly play for the China Olympic team. Like, I don't know how that all works, but I think I feel like they're gonna try to get some North American based players that grew up, in Canada. Like, I know Rachel Lanes is one of them, but yeah, I know the China team. I think they're gonna try to do something like that, but I'm not entirely sure. But they will be the host country in China, obviously, so they're gonna be there.
Yikes!
So we shall see what happens with that.
Indeed.
But then, speaking of Lindenwood, though, that was cool when they hired Shelley Looney as the head coach, the gold medalist from '98, and it seems like she's gonna have a good hand in bringing some good players in, like that maybe wouldn't have been brought in before. Like I think she coached somewhere in Buffalo. I don't remember what the team name was, but when I saw some players on the roster for this year, like Casey Adamy, like listed as like she used to play for the Buffalo Bisons, I think is what it was.
Okay.
Or I think that's what. Anyway, it was a Buffalo team. It's like, oh, I guess that must be Shelley Looney's work right there, And of course, midway through the season, like she brought in Bailey Coyne, who was playing at Northeastern, and of course we all recognize the Coyne name. I'm sure she wants to make her own legacy rather than just calling her Kendall Coyne's sister, but I thought that was pretty cool, and they're all from Chicago, so it makes sense. Lindenwood's, there's a lot of Chicago Mission players that play at Lindenwood, so.
Oh yeah. That's
and then of course 5 players graduated this year, which means Shelley's going to bring in. We'll see what players. You can see what the players are. I won't list all their names, but there's like 5 players that they said they have signed. Obviously to fill in for the seniors, but I just wonder how they'll do. Like, I feel like Shelley Looney doesn't play. Like, it's just like bringing in, Bailey Coyne halfway through the season. Like, I'm very eager to see like who she brings in and how it works, or how the players she brings in will
definitely. I mean, I think she'll have a pretty good system integrated and going for them. So
right.
I'm not too terribly worried about that. I just can't wait for them to start playing.
Yeah, for sure. And like, they have 1 year of Shelley under their belt already and 1 year in this new facility. And, I feel like the Lindenwood season was a bit disappointing. There's a lot of more hype going into it with the new facility and new coach. But, now they have 1 year of that under their belt, and not every game, of course, was disappointing. Like, they tied Clarkson one game. Right. So, hey, that's definitely a fun moment right there. I mean, considering it's Clarkson, and that's the team that always finds a way to win everything. So yeah, but yeah, I'm looking forward to the next season, and I think they can definitely build off this previous season, which again was their first season under Shelley Looney and first season in the new facility. So yes, indeed. Let's see what else I got up in my notes here. Oh yeah, I do have a list of the new recruits. So one of them is Thea Ryermark Jorgensen. I don't know if I pronounced that right. She's from Norway, and she played in the SDHL, and SDHL is like the Premier League in Europe, pretty much like the. That's a good ad. It's like the big. I think actually she bounced between the secondary league and the first top league, but it's still pretty cool. Like either way, I don't know if Lindenwood how many like non-North American players they've had before. Like,
not many of. I'm trying to stretch my brain on this one, but I don't think they've had too many of them.
Yeah, I can only go as far back as the Nicole Hensley era, and like because I haven't followed every year until Nicole Hensley made the U.S. team and got me into the team. So, right. Yeah, because you have her from Norway, and a player that was added this year. I don't know if she played much, but her name was Stena Takanaka from Japan, and she's played on the Japan U18 team a lot.
Wow.
So it's just like seeing if she stays on the team, and you have another non-North American player, so that'd be cool. But
yeah.
Otherwise, the new ads are Sarah Dravis, Caitlin Finnegan, Chloe Corbin, and a player named Tegan Heaslip. I don't know if I'm pronouncing these names right, but yeah, we'll see how they all do this upcoming season. I'm eager to find out.
It's definitely something to look forward to. So,
oh yeah,
got to hold on to that during these times.
Definitely. I'm kind of like near the end of my notes, actually. One thing I forgot to mention about Jinsey Dunn is I think she's going to be playing for the PWHPA rather than going to the NWHL or anywhere else. Yeah, I think. Jinsey Dunn, she's been close to the national team enough. Like she hasn't really played in the actual tournament games, and she wasn't in a while, and she wasn't even on the rivalry series games like that happened in December. But she's still close enough to the national team that it probably works better for her to be for the PWHPA. You just don't see the national team players going back to the NWHL too much. I mean, except for players that maybe were on the national team like a few years ago.
Right. Yeah.
And they might think they've ran their time with the national team is essentially done. I'm not sure. But
yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely good to have options that you can go with. So right. I'm just happy that she'll still be playing.
Definitely, and I guess there's not an official announcement, but like PWHPA, they've been like day by day, they've been listing at least 3 players that they've been saying like, oh, welcome back this person, like welcome back Hannah Bunton, or like welcome to as far as new players, it'd be like, hey, welcome to the PWHPA, Sarah Potomac. It's like they're pretty much listing all their returners and their newcomers like day by day, and they're not doing it all at once, and they're just kind of doing it a few a day. So we'll see like an official kind of announcement eventually. But yeah, I think Jinsey's going with the PWHPA. Is what it sounds like. And again, there's only 5 regions of that, so there's not like a Missouri region. There's like you have Montreal, Toronto, Calgary, Minnesota, and New Hampshire, and those are the only 5 regions for now. And what they're doing is they're going to set it up to where players actually have to try out to get to games. Like I think players kind of just like were automatically in the games if they wanted to be last year, but now I think they're going to have like a tryout type deal going on, which is good, I guess, for a compete factor, and don't just hand anything to people,
Well, and plus now, I mean, I think last year they were more just trying to get to capacity for teams.
Yeah.
So that it was much more relaxed, but now they can start really, getting a real competitive edge.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how it all pans out. I mean, right now I like the potential of the idea. So yeah, and hopefully Jinsey Dunn makes those teams, and I think she can. I mean, I feel like she keeps getting snubbed by USA Hockey, right? So it's like I feel like I have confidence that she'll make a PWHP roster, or however it all ends up really working out. But yeah, I feel good about it,
Faux show.
It was kind of a weird thing. Like, so Lindenwood, for some reason, all their goalies were ineligible to play in December for whatever reason, and I don't know what it could have been. I wasn't sure if it was injuries or academics, or like, I know Nicole Hensley was brought in as an assistant goalie coach at that time, and maybe she introduced kind of a structure that they weren't used to, because Nicole Hensley's been there. She's been to the Olympics and all.
Yeah.
She's done it all. So maybe it was something they couldn't warm up to right away. But for whatever reason, like all their goalies like couldn't play. So like a skater stepped in goal. I know one of them was Sierra Paisley that stepped in the net for one of the games, and like. That takes me back to playing hockey when I was a kid or in high school or whatever. Like, when the goalie doesn't show up, you have to step in, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But so it was Sierra Paisley. She played in goal that one game? I think it alternated, but they had, as a backup goalie, they had the field hockey goalie, right? The Lindenwood field hockey goalie, and she couldn't skate, so she was just there to fill the backup spot on the bench.
Yeah.
But my hypothetical question is, since there's a new Lindenwood women's hockey club team, since Lindenwood women's club hockey is returning, like what if, I don't know, would that even work? Could they like call up a club hockey goalie if a situation happens? I mean, I know it's NCAA and ACHA, but
I think so.
As long as there's no amateur conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Because I know like in club sport, you can go out and get like individual monetary sponsorships and not, be
okay.
and not have any, conflict of interest with the school or any other governing body, because it's a club sport using your own money, basically.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way. I know club sports exist, but I never delved too deep into them. So that's good to know, because I know the NCAA has a lot of rules and regulations and restrictions and stuff. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I just I don't want to see a game where Lindenwood gets beat.
Just because they don't have a goalie.
Yeah. And that was against Syracuse that weekend. So that same weekend I was kind of referencing earlier. So, I don't know. That'd be cool if a club hockey goalie got called up in that situation instead of that happening.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, I hope the situation doesn't happen again, but, since it did happen, that made me think of that
just in case and all that. Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, and pretty much I got through all my notes, but quick thing to mention about the Syracuse, that Syracuse weekend I was at. Again, this was in December, and I thought it was kind of cool. Like they posted on Twitter, like they were watching the Blues practice or whatever. It was one of those posts it was like, oh, hey, St. Louis Blues or something like that. And I was like, I thought that was pretty cool, because I had wondered what opposing teams were going to think about that facility, and then.
Oh yeah.
It seems like Syracuse liked it. They got to watch the Blues practice and stuff like that, and. Not only that, I talked to a player's dad when I was at the game, and we were kind of talking, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm here tonight, and tomorrow night I'll be going to the Blues Maple Leafs game." And I was like, "Oh yeah, the Blues are playing the Maple Leafs, and that's good. That's good timing for him." It's kind of like when I went to the NWHL All-Star game in Nashville, and the Blues were playing Nashville 5 minutes before the All-Star game. It's like,
yeah,
I worked out really well. Sometimes I've gotten lucky like that.
Oh yeah.
Other times, not so much, but yeah, it's just crazy when that happens.
It's good to have a little luck. It's kind of bad to have a whole lot of it.
Yeah, whole lot of luck. Be careful what you wish for, all that.
Oh yeah.
All right, man. Well, this has been Brandon McLaughlin and James Vest talking about the St. Louis hockey scene once again in the St. Louis area and how it grows the game here. Not only that, I think again, we're not the only ones doing this, right? We're not the only ones building new facilities. I think even Nashville, even though I saw that practice facility during the All-Star game, I think they also built a new 2 ice sheet facility. And they also, Carolina, we talked about how they're building some kind of, it's like a multi-sport facility. Again, they're going to have ice hockey there, but also have other stuff like gymnastics. So it's just kind of interesting. So talking about the St. Louis hockey scene it's cool because, it could be happening like that in other parts of the country too, and just everywhere else. So,
well, I mean, there are 2 places that come to mind right off the bat, and that's Seattle, because they not only started in on their own arena there, but they've also been improving the complexes that are already, in existence.
Yeah.
And KC. Kansas City has a couple different venues that they've built up over the last couple of years and all that.
Sure, yeah.
I just love how hockey's been growing. So
definitely,
I think that's a good thing to end on. Yeah,
that is the example for us in the St. Louis area, and hopefully there are more examples throughout. So, good deal.
Yep.